Disillusionment. It's that state of being when you thought you knew something. You thought you knew someone. You thought you had a grasp of truth. And then something happened. The person showed you another side of them. The event that you were so sure of never took place. And that truth showed itself to have some holes in it. That's where what you thought to be solid, fact, real, was shown to be just an illusion. And in ripping away that illusion, you feel broken, cynical, scared, uncertain. Well, friends, the disciples certainly would have been experiencing disillusionment that first Good Friday. Jesus, the rabbi, they had dropped their nets, left their tax booth, left their zealot camp in order to follow this rabbi. They've been with him for 3 years. They've been hearing him teach. They've been following him so closely. They had just walked into Jerusalem amidst the cries of a crowd. And now they're watching as he's hanging on a cross. Disillusionment. Friends, we've spent this past week kind of walking through Jesus' Passion Week. Now, the disciples, they were experiencing these things in real time. And some of it was building their excitement for the work of Messiah in the world. Some of it they would have only realized after the fact Jesus was letting them in on what he was actually doing. But now, as their rabbi, their teacher, their would-be Messiah was there on the cross, all hope was lost. And there, as they watched, some from a distance, the women a little closer, they heard Jesus utter 7 statements. Jesus' 7 statements from the cross. His final words recorded while alive here on earth prior to his death. And so, friends, this morning we're just going to spend a little bit of time just very briefly reflecting on, and I invite you to go further than what I lay out under each statement. Beaten, spit on, kicked, mocked and scorned by those who looked on. Everyone around completely missing the embodiment of truth. And then raised up between 2 thieves, sinless love hung between 2 convicted criminals. And Jesus' response, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Forgive them. In one statement, Jesus shows a different way. He did not respond based on his own treatment or circumstances. No, in utter selflessness, Jesus acknowledges the limitations and misunderstanding of those who worked to put him on the cross. And he lets them off the hook. Oh, that we could have the humility and perspective to understand that everyone around us, moving and walking through life, are doing so with immense brokenness and their own limitations. And all too often, it means that they will say and do things that will have negative consequences on us. Would that we could say, like Jesus. Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. There he was between two criminals. They deserved to be there. And yet Jesus, the sinless, spotless Lamb of God, they turned and mocked him. If you're truly the Son of God, come down from there. You think you can save them? You can't even save yourself. Well, one thief had enough, and he pushed back, and he said, hold on. And he turned to Jesus and said, would you remember me? Would you remember me? And Jesus said those words, truly, I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Friends, in the midst of a display of mockery and disbelief, one criminal came to understand the difference between his own guilt and Jesus' innocence. His own guilt and Jesus' innocence. He came to understand that Jesus had done nothing wrong. He didn't deserve to be there. Now, he also realized that Jesus was up to something. He believed that Jesus was the Messiah. And even though Jesus was there on the cross, the man asked, can I be a part of what you're up to? Can I be a part of your coming kingdom? Would you remember me? Would you remember me? Jesus assured him, today you will be with me in paradise. Now, paradise is a reference back to Eden, earth restored. This idea that, yes, you can be a part of what I'm up to. Friends, have we asked Jesus, hey, I want to be a part of what you're up to. I want to be a part of it. Would you remember me? Would you remember me? One of the things about Jesus' ministry that stands out to me is the way he was so relational. So relational. He didn't allow the norms of the day, the societal mores, to keep him from people. Women, sick, outcasts. Jesus would talk to them, affirm their humanity. He would touch the untouchable. He would embrace the unembraceable. He would show dignity to the one who had shame heaped on them. You see this relational heart woven through. And now here on the cross, do we actually expect any different? He turns to his mom there and he says, woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. You see a relational concern, even while hanging on the cross. Now, his brief words there on the cross weren't merely a suggestion. No, what's interesting is that when someone was being crucified, they were given their last words. And in a sense, it's like their last will and testament. And so in a sense, you have Jesus pronouncing his last word here, saying, Mother, behold your son. And to to John, the beloved one, he said, "Behold your mother." Friends, do you see that he allows his mom to be protected by his disciple? And to his disciple, he said, "You are not alone. You be in relationship with my mom." He provided a way for those he loved to continue to be in relationship. Now, it's interesting, there's various approaches from a theological perspective of what's wrapped up in this statement, but for me, I find myself just moved by the heart with which Jesus maintained even there while on the cross. Interesting throughout Jesus' ministry, when you see Jesus speaking to God, he used the word Father, often Father. And yet here it turns. It turns. Jesus pulls back to a quotation from the Psalms. In his grief, in his pain, in his suffering, he quotes Scripture. And he quotes Psalm 22, the first verse, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Now, what's interesting here is I really don't think this is the place for a theological treatise on the Trinity. Or is it to, determine the fine details of what's going on with the atonement in this statement? No, Mark doesn't allow us that. No, for Mark, he wants us to feel Jesus' agony. He's not trying to explain it for us. Jesus, who got up before the light of day on a regular basis to commune with his Father. Jesus, who walked so closely with his Abba, with his daddy. And now, my God, why have you forsaken me? He feels the weight of sin and death. He feels the oppression of darkness resting on his shoulders, and he's going to battle against it. Feeling this separation from the Father, yet even still, Jesus maintains a note of familiarity when he says, my God, even in the midst of all that was swirling, even in the midst of hanging there on the cross, he was able to say, my God, my God. With Jesus, fully God and fully man. In one statement, we see Jesus' humanity on full display. There, hanging on the cross, he uttered two words. I thirst. I thirst. Now, even though he was there, a king hanging on the cross, he was still legitimately in agony. The Messiah, the Christ, the King. And yet, under the brutal torment and pain of life slipping away. Now, in this picture of his agony is encaptured in his words, I thirst, I thirst. But friends, through his agony, endured in obedience and love, we see the victory of God achieved over sin and death. He went through that human agony in order to accomplish a divine victory. Now, to get clear about this point, let me quote Brian Zond, who said the crucifixion is not a defeat overturned by the resurrection. No, the crucifixion is a victory revealed by the resurrection. A victory achieved by Jesus, the God-man, going through the agony of it all. Human being, thirsting, hurting, but he knew the end. Victory over sin, victory over death, victory over the powers that ensnare the world. Friends, do you remember that scene in the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus was there praying with his three closest friends, and he poured out his heart to them? And he told them, my soul is overcome with sorrow to the point of death. Please stay here and keep watch. Pray with me, support me. And then he turned to pray. And we see this expression. He said, Abba, Father. Abba, Father. Everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but your will be done. Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. I don't want it. This Passion Week, this mockery, this scorn, this abuse, this being beaten, spit on, ridiculed, walking the road to Golgotha, being raised up on the cross. I don't want it. And yet not what I will, but your will be done. In obedience, Jesus walked the path. In obedience, Jesus drank the bitter cup. Friends, and there on the cross, we see him say the words, it is finished. It is accomplished. What I came to do is accomplished. What your will, Father, is accomplished. Friends, we can rest in those words. When Jesus says, it is finished, we see love poured out for us. When he says it is accomplished, friends, he has taken care of the powers of sin and death. It is finished. It is accomplished. There's nothing more we can add to it. There's nothing more we can do. Jesus has done it. Would you live in it? Would you embrace it? Would you crack your heart to experience that love today? Jesus says, it is finished. And now we come to the final statement, where Jesus says, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Friends, do you see the absolute expression of trust? The absolute expression of trust. Again, not based on what God has already done, because there he was. Jesus has walked the path of obedience. God never swooped in and saved him, like we see done with Abraham and his son Isaac, where right when that knife was raised, an angel swooped in and said, hold up, provided a ram, provided another way. Here Jesus is. And notice how the language has shifted back to Father. Father. There's the trust. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Friends, would that we be so close to God, that we would walk day by day with him, that we would wake up early seeking his face, that we would walk in such a way that trust grows, that our delight in relationship with him grows, so that when it's our time and we're nearing the end, we can say with utmost trust, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Friends, this is a difficult one because we're talking about death. And yet, Jesus is the first fruits. Jesus is the example, reminding us that death is not the end. Death does not have the final word. And so, friends, wherever we find ourselves, when that day comes, may we rest in the example of Jesus, knowing that he assured our hope. He assured our future. May we be able to echo that sentiment, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.